Happy Monday.
What's up?
I've got my live vehicle background on today.
It's always impressive how realistic it looks.
Yeah, the seatbelt was a tough last minute. It's the little touches that really make the difference there.
It's the seatbelt and the sunglasses, because I mean, who would wear sunglasses inside, right? So
Right.
Clearly you have to look the part, and the fact that you can get it to move behind you though, as if you're really driving, is the most impressive part.
It's, I don't want to do anything half-assed. It's just getting it done.
Well, when I grow up, I want to be just like you.
I was actually perfectly timed today to get it right to be at the office. Then I realized I took my laptop home to do some stuff this weekend, and I forgot to bring it in the car on my way to take Kai to school. So that threw me off about 4.5 minutes, but hey, it's all good. It's all good.
Part of the process.
We're going to have some fun today, because you and I were going back and forth about this morning. And one of the last things we talked about was wiggling in a little Phu Khao. And so let's start with a concept, because here's what I've noticed. What I noticed is people way too complicate this business, right? And the life. This is the simplest business in the planet. All you have to do is wake up, show up, and talk with people. Really, that's your entire job, if you let it be. Now, here's where we get in the weeds, and here's where I think people screw up. We worry too much about exactly who to say it to and what to say to them and how should it sound. And we even complicate it a little too much ourselves by DISC, VAKs, and all of those little things, right? Which might create a little paralyzing effect unnecessarily. Now, let me asterisk this by saying these are skills that allow your communication to be very effective. So when you do talk with people, you're a lot more effective in your communication. So absolutely, we need to get good at all the things that we're talking about. But I think sometimes we get in the weeds a little bit too much as far as what needs to happen and how do we need to go and where are we trying to get to and what are the goals. And we get caught up in the primary aims and the visions and the goals and the plans and the detailed analytics about how many people we talk to, what kind of, should I get a dialer? I read about this YouTube guy, he does this, and this guy does this, and this guy does this, and how should I do it, and how do I do this? And it just gets into this big cluster mixing bowl of mud, right, to try to get us to the next level. That's my observation. What do you see?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's funny. I was sitting there watching football yesterday, right? And Washington Commanders won, by the way.
Hey, congrats on having a name for your football team. Is kind of nice.
Yeah,
a new thing.
We got a new name, new jerseys, new helmet, bunch of new players, new quarterback, and look at that, we actually won a game. We almost lost. We tried to lose, but we ended up pulling it out. I digress, though. The whole point of that is, as I was sitting there watching it, it kind of occurred to me, there's a lot of similarities, right, to what we do to sports in general. But I'm sitting there watching the football yesterday, and it hit me that their goal is very simple: win the football game. Right now, do they come in with a plan? Absolutely. But what do professional coaches and athletes do, in my opinion, better than almost anyone else? They adapt, right? Yep. When they can't plan to be down 21-7. They can't plan the score of the game. They can't plan a tipped ball that becomes an interception. All they can do is, when those things happen, adapt, right? The game plan changes there, but their only goal is to win the game. They don't care how they have to do it. If it switches mid-game to having to run the ball down the other team's throat instead of pass, even though passing was predominantly the plan coming in, they're going to do it because they don't care how they win. They just want to win, right? And it's as simple as that. And if we took that approach of, we don't necessarily care how the transactions, how the deals, how we build our business, we just want to build the business, right? We just want to succeed. We just want to help people. Now, what do they also do extremely well? The Chiefs' game plan with Patrick Mahomes is going to be different than the Commanders' game plan with Carson Wentz, because they have two completely different skill sets. And if they tried to game plan around Carson Wentz the way they game plan around Patrick Mahomes, that would not play out very well, right? And so what they do extremely well is they're super self-aware about what their teams are capable of doing and building the most effective strategy around the skill sets that they have. If they have one of the top running backs in the league, guess what they're going to do? They're going to run the ball down your throat. If they've got Tyreek Hill and no one can catch him, guess what they're going to do? They're going to throw the ball to Tyreek Hill downfield because you can't keep up. So they're going to look at their skill set. And that's where, to me, the next level comes in. That's where the archetypes come in. Because I think, to your point, this business is very, very simple. But I also think that we are, as an industry, are not very self-aware. We're constantly looking at, oh, Jeff did 60 transactions last year. Oh, I want to do 60 transactions. I'll just do what Jeff did. It's not going to work. It's not going to work unless you have a personality and a skill set similar to Jeff, which some of you might, and then it's going to work. But if Jeff did it by sitting there banging 2 phones in each ear and hanging up on the one that didn't answer, and when one answered, which he did, by the way, if that's how he did it, and I'm not super comfortable doing that, and I don't really want to make the phone calls, and I'm not going to commit to doing that because it's not who I am, that's not going to work. So we have to, I agree with you, it's super simple. We have to talk to people. But then the next step of that is, okay, but who am I going to be best at talking to, and how am I going to be best at that? Because now I can put myself in the best position possible. That's it. And I think if we do those two things, you're going to be in a pretty good shape.
I agree 100%. I want to go in reverse. I want to go back, right? Before we even get to the game planning. The game planning is to figure out what does winning mean to you, right? And out of football back into life, right? Because ultimately we want to win in this game of life that we're in. But every one of us has a different definition of what winning is, right? You may see people that are already at a level that you want to be in, and you think they've already won, and they're trying to get to a different level. They haven't even won yet, right? So everyone has a different level of winning, of success, of what you actually want, right? So that's what it really needs to start with, right? And that's kind of where the Phu Khao comes into play, because a lot of times I know for a fact, because I've done it myself a lot, and I still find myself doing it. I have to consciously pull myself out of it, saying, all right, I'm going to create this, right? I'm going to manifest this. I'm going to have this lifestyle. I'm going to go here. I'm going to experience this. I'm going to create this. I'm going to add on this. I'm going to save up for this. I'm going to hit this number in this account. I'm going to do that, right? All these things that we get into have to start before the how game planning really even begins. And that's where I think a lot of people trip themselves up or stumble, is they start worrying about, well, I want to make $1 million. I want to make $500,000 this year. And first of all, that triggers the drunk monkey, your brain says, you've never made $500,000 a year, you dumbass, it's never going to happen. And it automatically starts to kill you and shut down your dreams and says, well, how are you going to do that? You didn't do that last year, right? Or $100,000. Why don't you start with $100,000? You never did it. All this negative self chatter talk is immediately coming after you from the very beginning. And now you're like, okay, well, maybe I can. Well, then your brain goes to, well, how are you going to do that? You're going to make $100,000 this year or this quarter, whatever it is to you, or this month, because we have people watching every one of those categories. You're going to go do that, so a level that you've never been to before. Your brain says, how am I going to do that? Right. And then that right there is when people lose, because you don't know. If you've never done it before, you honestly don't know how it's going to play out for you. And you cripple yourself by getting too in the weeds of how is it going to happen, right? You've got to have that big vision, right? There's no way you know how you're going to get there because you've never been there before. And the way somebody else got there, to your point, Mike, is not the way you're going to end up there. It might be the same direction, but you're not going to have the exact same path. You're not going to follow the same people because you don't know the same people. You don't have the same DNA. You don't have the same levels of communication, of confidence. Everything's different, right? You're you and you're perfect just the way that you are. Your path is completely different than everybody else's in the world because you're different than everybody else in the world, right? So automatically we start to build this path out that says, well, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to do this. If I talk to this many people and get this many appointments, this many appointments, this many, right? And you get into this analytical mindset, which is not the time for this, right? The time is, okay, I'm going to have a lifestyle where I can go do X, Y, or Z. I'm going to live this way. I'm going to live in this type of a home. I'm going to have this type of flexibility and freedom. I'm going to be able to travel here and there. I'm going to have this saved for my kids, right? This is going to be my lifestyle. This is the type of person I'm going to come home to. This is the way my life is going to be when I'm home. This is the way I want to feel. This is the way I want to treat people around me. This is where I want to give back. This is my world, right? And now that takes a lot of discipline, energy, excitement, mental strength, because everything I just talked about is going to meet resistance, right? Mostly from myself and my brain, because how are you going to do that, Jeff? That sounds good, but you've never done that before. You don't know how to do that. You're going to fail, right? It's not going to work. You're going to screw up. How are you going to do this? Why would you even do that? Why would you put yourself out there? This is dumb, right? This is the mental battle that we face every single day, right? And so we have to get strong enough in our mind to just know that we're walking into a battle every day. 100, we're walking into battle with our own brain every day. As soon as we come up with a big ass goal that's outside of our comfort zone, we're automatically under attack. So the question is, are you going to be strong enough to A, know that that's happening, B, be prepared for it, C, push through it? The only way that's going to ever happen is if you've got enough of a cool drive to say, you know what, I know it's going to be uncomfortable. I know I might fail at it. It might not work out the way I want it to be. I might have to have another path, but hell, I'm going to live that way. Period. End of story. It will happen. I can picture it. I feel it. I see it. I'm committed to it. I'm going to make sure that it happens. Now, notice what is not in any of this story right now. How? Right? This is just the mental battle to figure out the what. Like, the what are we actually doing? What are we doing this for? How are we going to make this happen? Is it worth it? And yes, it's damn well worth it. I'm going to live this way. That's the game. That's the only game we're playing, guys. And I think we missed that. That's it. Because once you win that game, the intention is set. The energy has been released. People, places, events, situations will unfold along your path to get you where you decided and committed that you're going to actually end up being. Right? That's the mental game. But most of us get stuck. And I'm guilty of it too, guys. Most of us get stuck before we get to that feeling of commitment, of energy, of just pride, of just focus, right? And commitment and decision. And that's where it comes to. That's where the fuck how comes from, right? It's forget about the how. How is just, that's mechanics, guys. That's semantics, that's mechanics, and it's easy. That's the easy part. The hard part is doing what we just talked about, is just having that mental strength to be committed, to be clear, to be focused, to be zeroed in on something and saying, damn it, that's going to happen because I'm going to make sure that it does. A little bit of a rant, but I wanted to drive that point home because this is the game.
100%. Yeah. I mean, the one thing that helped me with that personally was just to stop debating stuff, right? I'm in my head a lot. And it's one of the reasons I love running, because I get to be in my head for that hour and a half, however long the run is. But at the same time, what I've really started to realize is when it comes to whether it's stuff we're doing for Beggins, B3, doesn't matter. Almost anything in my life. If there's something I'm wanting, I'm committed to, I'm not debating it, right? It's not like, oh, should we? No, if I feel like I deserve it, I want it, we're going to go there, that's the direction I'm going, I'm going, and we're going to make that decision. I'm going to do it, and we're going to try it, and it may fail, it may not work, but I'm not debating it. I'm just taking action. And because of that, it tends to play out positively, because now I'm in the habit and I've created the consistency of consistent action. There's no more debating, right? And for the analytics out there, the Craigs of the world, that's difficult, right? Me and you probably drive Craig crazy, because a lot of times we're like, is this going to work? I don't know, let's try it, right? There is no like, oh, well, let's weigh the options and go through that. No, we're just going to do it. And if it doesn't work, then we'll try something else. And if it works, great. And then we'll keep adding to it. But that allows us to move quickly, and it allows us to limit the mental blocks that a lot of us experience. Because if you're moving fast, you don't have time to sit there and, oh, I don't know, should I? No, just freaking do it. I promise you, because you know what? You won't know the alternative. So just do it. Right. And I was listening to a podcast recently. Zuckerberg was on with Rogan, and something very interesting he said was he had zero intention, zero, of making Facebook anything beyond a college communication tool. The only reason he did is he set out with the intention of building a platform that connected college kids. That was it. However, those college kids started graduating, something he never thought of. And when they graduated, they wanted the platform still. And he's like, I honestly never crossed our mind that when they left school, they would still want to use it. But they did. So we said, okay, well, if they want to use it, then we've got to change this from being a EDU only email, and we got to build a system that allows them to stay connected afterwards. He's like, and then that's when it really started clicking with us, that we had to keep thinking about, okay, well, there's connection points everywhere then. How do we connect the world, not just college kids, right? And that's really where Facebook all of a sudden took off. But he literally built the platform with zero intent of it. He just adapted to it when the consumer told him what they wanted. And your business will be the same way. If we just go and you just start taking action and performing, the business will frame itself, right? You'll start getting the referrals. They'll start telling you what you're really good at, where that business can come from, where your best skill set is, and that will start to show itself. And then you adapt, right? Amazon started by selling books. Jeff Bezos had zero intention of being the largest retailer in the world. That happened by default, right? And that's the point. These guys didn't set out with that intention. You don't need to set out to build the biggest real estate business in the world. You need to get started, build something, and then it will start to come.
And you've got to have, there was a vision to create a platform to connect cool people. There was the vision to have a really great online retailer experience starting out with books, right? But he didn't know how. None of them know how. Why? Because nobody's ever done that before. How would you, where's the roadmap to figure out how to start selling a book to becoming the largest retailer on the planet? There's no blueprint to follow that at all, right? And now it's just gone to a behemoth. It's an unbelievable machine, right? But it's just started out to build something cool that was going to connect people. Yes, everybody wants to have money and stuff, but I bet you none of them ever imagined they'd be the top 25 richest people on the planet, right? That by default happened because they love the journey. Every one of them could clearly retire and go play golf anytime they wanted to anywhere around the world, but they're not, right? None of them are, because they're in love with the journey, with the hunt, with the feeling of growth and doing something at a next level. Right now, next levels change too. Next levels may become philanthropic, right? Helping people in a different manner, right? But there's still that driving force to go do something, right? And they don't know how they're going to do it. One of them wants to go end world hunger or whatever it ends up being. That's a big picture. And they just walk down paths, right? But you got to have that vision, that feeling. Now, let's reel this back into our businesses right now, right? And this is September, October, November, December. So we've got 3 more months in essence, right? We're booking right now for business that's going to close in Q4. So we have 1 quarter left in this entire year. Now that's what we can control. Now, what do we know about this year? Let's take external circumstances come into play just a little bit, just to kind of know what you're dealing with. That's kind of game planning, right? But that's step 2. Step 1 is what are you committed to accomplishing, achieving, creating between now and December 31st, right? Let's go there for a second. And the moment you start thinking about number of transactions, I'm going to reach through the phone and smack you, right? This is not the how. This is the why, right? This is the what and the why, right? Dream big for a moment. Like, what could happen between now and December 31st? What is possible? I want you guys to chime in, type in here. What is the let's go to monetary for a second. What is the most amount of money you think you can earn between now and December 31st? Right? Interesting question, but I want just type it in there. Between now and December 31st, business, you don't forget about how it's going to come in. Realistically, what do you think is best case scenario? Big picture, knock it out of the park. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I hit this. I did this in Q4 of 2022. Okay, 50 grand's coming in for Julia. Love it. Okay, type in, kind of keep them coming. Just for this quarter, by the end, December 31st, how much can we have come in for your income there? 60. Tammy's gonna grab in 60 cash. I got 80 grand. I want to bring my wife home from work and let her retire. That's beautiful. 80 grand, 70 grand, 65 grand, 48 grand, 60, 50. All of these are absolutely perfect. Okay. Perfect, completely attainable. Right? There's not even a shot any of those numbers isn't completely attainable for you. Okay. So now, where do you think the next step needs to be? No house, right? I know part of you saying, okay, well, my average check's about $78,000. I need to do so many transactions. Stop, right? We're not there. Okay. What will that amount of income do for you? Right. And what I mean do for you, ultimately, everything we do is about emotions, and emotions are feelings, right? Everything we do is an emotional driver. We justify all of it with logic, but it's completely an emotional play. So those who typed in the number figured out, what are we going to do with that income? Now I see a new Lexus popping up there. Maybe it's cutting up a credit card. Maybe it's saving. Maybe it's throwing some money into an investment you've always wanted to do. Maybe it's a savings account. Maybe whatever it is, doesn't matter. It's important, right? Because if you dig down deeper into what does the Lexus do, or buying an investment property do for Kim, investment properties for Tammy, what does that actually create? Okay. The creation of that money to buy an investment property or things, right, is going to ultimately give you something. And that something is ultimately create something makes you feel security for the future. It'll change my life for the better, be able to buy my mom a house, right? And work full-time on real estate, Sebastian says, right? This is great. Each step up in income, right? There you go. Okay.
So let's take the next step on some of this though.
Yep.
Because these are all great things. And me and you talked to hundreds of agents, our own perspective, you name it. We every week we're talking to a lot of agents, and a lot of agents say things like this: I want 50,000. I want to invest. How many times have you heard that? I want to invest. Invest in what? Where? How much is that going to cost, right? I would argue that the next step for Sebastian, for example, since you just put in, I want to be able to buy my mom a house. Great. Where? What house? How much is that going to cost? Has she looked?
But time out real quick. Time out. I agree with you 100%. I want to hit one more point before we get into the how on this thing, because it's the feeling. Because what the goal here is to set this intention. Okay, that is an unbreakable intention. It's a decision, it's a commitment, and it's the feeling. Okay. Now, Sebastian's again, he's going to buy his mom a house, right? I'm guessing your mom doesn't live in a bridge right now. So if you don't hit the house, you get the house for her, she's still going to be able to sleep and not have the elements fall on her face, right? So is it a necessity? No. Is it a driving force that he really wants to do this? Yes, right? What will the feeling be, right? When he hands those keys over and she lives in a house and looks at his face with tears in her eyes and the hug that he loves, to feel that feeling that she's feeling is because of the effort that he's about to put in. Okay. Now that feeling is
And I agree. But I would also argue that that feeling will be far more real if his mom gets attached to it. The moment she starts looking, the moment she finds that house, that's when it gets real. I'll give you an example. We need to get our roof redone. We've been talking about painting the house. We've been talking about doing all this stuff to the exterior part of the house. All of a sudden this weekend, my wife started looking at colors. She started picking out what type of roof she wanted. Right now, we've been talking about this for a month, maybe even longer. It wasn't real. I was like, yeah, we need to do it. But now when I saw her and how excited she was to actually start, she had people coming over to start quoting out a new patio out front, what the colors were going to be, the new stone that was going on the house. It started getting real for her. And the second it got real for her and I realized how happy that would make her, now I'm committed to making that happen as well, right? So it took that next step of, all right, yeah, we need to do those things. Yeah. Oh wait, now it's getting real. Now it's important to her to the point where she's actually taking those steps. Now for me, to your point, I want that feeling. I could care less, to be honest with you, right? Personally, I could care less. But now it's super important to her. And because of that, I want that feeling of how excited she's going to be when the whole exterior is redone and the way she wants it, right? From landscaping, we had landscapers out here, we had the whole thing. Because it got real to her, now that feeling is more real for me. And it will happen in the next month. Everything will be done, right? But it took that for me to get real. So I think sometimes, to your point, it is about the emotions. But the emotions go to a new level when we get fully committed to it, right? And we get fully committed to it by it gets real, right? And so that was more my point. Like, I think the moment Sebastian's mom says, oh my God, that house is amazing. Now he's going to want to not just buy her house, he's going to want to buy her that house, right?
And there's nothing will stop him. And nothing will stop him.
Right. Now he's committed. She will be in that house.
And we haven't even gotten to the house, right? You see the point? The fuck how, right? Once he gets fully immersed and committed to that, he will find the way. The way will find him, most importantly. The way will find him, because he's going to get up with that intention, feeling gratitude and grateful for the opportunity to do what he can do, right? And then carry that feeling, which is a magnet, to attract people, places, events, situations to him that allow the path to unfold, that allow that house to happen, right? It could be a FSBO that he calls, could be an expired listing, could be an absentee owner, could be somebody. But the point is, he's going to talk with people because he's committed emotionally to go do something. And one of those contacts is going to lead to the thing that will end up getting that house for his mom, because he's emotionally charged and committed into this thing. That's the key thing. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't go back to this point that you guys are sitting on a lot of equity right now, right? On your house? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you're about to put money in for a roof, for landscaping, redoing the patios, creating paint, all of that stuff too. Investing in his home. Mm-hmm. Now, as a good real estate agent, I would have to say that, is there a house that already has a newer roof, that has the landscaping, that has the finishes, that would be a smarter investment with all of that sick equity you did nothing for, by the way, but sleep, and not have to spend that cash that you're about to pull out of your pocket to create that same feeling inside of your wife to make sure that she's happier with the one thing in her house that she wanted to have a little bit different, just called planting seeds to have that conversation to do what you need to go do in the neighborhood, in the same school district, to take away your
That's our
objections.
challenge.
I know.
That's our challenge. We've certainly looked around. There's nothing. We are so restricted due to the schools right now that is the challenge. If it was my youngest was not in his school, it would be a lot easier because there's a lot larger area that feeds the middle school. But unfortunately, we have one in elementary school, and there's 4 subdivisions in total. And we honestly probably live in the nicest one. And when we're done, our house will probably be one of the nicest in those 4 subdivisions. So we're in a spot where we're kind of tied here for the next 5 to 6 years, and then from then we will be moving to the beach. Like that will happen. But.
Right. Well, it doesn't matter the beach thing, but guys, this is our job, right? To when things like that happen, you've got to throw the idea out there because it may be a smarter idea. Circumstances are very important, which which, if you've been following long enough, I always bust his butt about that scenario, but he set himself up for it, as Lauren just pointed out, to have that conversation. Because here's the reality. He does have stupid equity. He did nothing for it. It's free money sitting there, and he's about to pull cash out that he could use other things for, to do other things with it, to dump into this house, right? Which will reduce the equity he has, right, when he does sell into the future. But that's okay for him. But it's my job just to have that thought go in there. And if he takes an extra second and I set him up on my Moxie, right, for that very limited potential little search, or if find out that there's actually 4 houses only that are even a possibility, and if I'm committed to actually going and bang on those 4 doors or go into forewarn or call those 4 people and say, hey, just a quick hypothetical out of the blue question. I got a friend who, your house is like one of the only 3 he'd ever consider moving. Is there even a remote shot hypothetically that you'd even consider selling this piece of property? Right? That would be something. If I were his agent, I would jump on that opportunity to do those things, and then I would exhaust it and help him find a roofer, right? But that would be the only case, right? So those are the things that when you're committing to things, your ears listen, and you pick up on opportunities that some people might have said, oh, cool, you're getting a new roof, sweet, bud. I'd say, hey, awesome, you're getting a new roof. I just have a question for you. Is there any other potential solution that might create that same feeling for you guys in the situation that you're in right now that satisfy your needs, right? And then that's the question I sort my, I don't care either way, right? I really don't. I want them to have the best opportunity for their family. And I know there's a couple things that they would rather have. And if that opportunity presented itself, they'd pounce on it. If not, no big deal. But that's my job, right? That's our job, is to do this. I'm his de facto agent just because we're friends and we talk about it all the time. But sometimes we digress. And that's the point. So back to this point though, and Sebastian, this is the type of opportunities he's going to start to hear. He's going to start, his brain is going to be activated, right, from a receptor situation that's going to find more opportunities now, because he has a desire that's now public, by the way, that's now a crazy intention that he now is committed to making something happen, right? Same thing, Tammy, when you're writing down investments and stuff too. Is it a duplex? Is it a triplex? Is it just saving for an apartment building? Is it in buying more merchandise for your Bark Life store? Is it whatever the investment is? Right? That's important. That gives you a feeling of success, of freedom, of flexibility, of whatever it is that you're searching for. Maybe the ability just to exhale, right? Maybe we've been running so hard for the last few years, having an extra 12 grand a month coming in from a real estate investment might allow you to take a little trip and just decompress for a little bit, right? Knowing that all of your mortgages are covered and all of your payments are covered, right? Whatever it is, it's ultimately the feeling that we're after, right? So if your primary aim, vision, goal, dream, whatever you want to call it, is not emotionally charging for you right now, like if you don't think about it, I bet you when we told that story with Sebastian, I bet you the hairs on his arm stood up, and I bet you an emotional feeling came upon him, and I bet he could picture in the feeling of hugging his mom, right? That is undeniable, and that is unstoppable, and there's nothing that will get in the way of that. And then we go to the next step, which is house, right? But now we're still in the Phu Khao part.
Sure, but even to kind of start or transition into the house, taking that emotion that gets you fired up and leveraging that and realizing that that has an impact on all those around you as well, right? And so if Sebastian goes and says, yep, this is what's going to drive me, this is the emotion that's going to fire me up, this is what's going to get me, you know, to where I need to be. Now the next step, I would argue, is if you're comfortable with it, share that, right? Tell that story, put that out there, because those that are in your inner circle, if Sebastian just posts out there, I'll use the post from this morning as an example.
Yes. Yep.
Right. Hey, you know people I don't know. Right. Now, does that post work? Sure. Is that a more powerful post, though, if a copy of that post this morning, instead of what I put, was personalized to Sebastian, and he said, listen, I'm on a mission over the next 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, to buy my mom a house. She gave up everything for me. She sacrificed everything. And there's nothing in this world that I want more than to hand her keys to her own place. So,
and put a picture of his mom up and a picture of some house keys up, right?
You know people I don't know, right? They will buy into your emotion as well.
That's right.
And because of that, they are far more likely to do business with you. And it doesn't have to necessarily be that story. It could be an investment, right? But share why. Why is that investment so important to you? It could be retirement. It could be the new car. It could be anything. There's an emotion from you tied to that. And if you share that emotion, other people will buy into that too, right? It what makes for a good story. You don't watch a movie or a TV show where there's no draw, there's no emotional draw, right? Your favorite show is your favorite show because it hits you in some sort of emotion, whether it's action, whether it's fear, whether it's heartwarming, it's hitting an emotional string, right? Because they're telling the story. You have to do the same thing. So now it becomes sharing that story. Now, how we share that story depends on the archetype, right? If you are a marketer, maybe you're creating content around that story and putting it out. If you're not, maybe it's having direct conversations. If you're a prospector, maybe it's literally going to people that you feel like you can one-on-one attract, right? So getting into the house, now we're going to figure out what our archetype is, and we're just going to talk with people and we're going to share that story. But how we share it and who we share it with depends on the archetype, right? And so I think that's the next step here. But I just wanted to point that out, that you all have a purpose and a why for what you're doing. Share it. Tell the story. Other people will buy in.
And to your point about the emotions for a second, from a TV show, from a book, from a song, right? All of them strike emotional chords, and they all hit everybody at different stages of life, right? You had a different favorite song at 17 than you did because life was different at 24, then at 30, then at 35, then at 42, and at 56, and 60, and 75, and 82, right? There's different things that are important and emotional that create a connection, right? And everything's emotional, everything is a connection, which gets into some of the, first of all, is there anything now that will get in the way of Sebastian not being successful over the next quarter, right? Not unless if he keeps that vision in front of him. Now, this is the important part, because after this call, doubt, fear, anxiety, you're new, you don't know shit, you don't even know how to do real estate, all of that other stuff will creep into his head, right? Which will potentially knock him out until he says, I don't care, I got enough people around me that will hold my hand and take me to that level. All I need to do is make a phone call and ask when I hit something I don't know. But I am going to call as many people I can today, talk to their people, DM a bunch of people. That goes in the archetypes of how he's going to find business, right? But nothing will get in his way. Because on New Year's Eve, he wants to break the news that, hey, I saved up enough money and we're going to go pick you out a house, right? Now, that picture of mom with house keys needs to go on his dashboard, needs to go on his bathroom mirror, needs to go first thing in the morning, first thing at night. It's a wallpaper on his phone. It's a driving force. So when he is doing his work and somebody says, screw you, how'd you get my number? Don't ever call me again, you dick, right? Pardon my language. Right? He's going to look at the picture, smile, and keep moving forward, right? That's the name of the game. Is that's when only when you have the emotional connections that nothing will stop me, right? I don't care who says what, it will not change my outcome. Fuck how, right? It's happening out of my way, right? That's the difference. That's the vision. That's the unstoppable aspect of all of us. But if we don't have that emotional draw, there's no reason to go, right? And then you're going to be like, I tried a couple contacts, didn't work, right? And then you're going to be broke, just like last week and the week before. But this is the day it changes. That's why I love Mondays. It's a brand new page to say enough, right? And let's get emotionally connected to something that's going to fire us up. I don't care if it's adding on a library to a church because you don't need money. Find something that'll put an emotional feeling in your heart that's unstoppable. And there's your reason, right? Help somebody in need, right? Go do something for the community. Create a playground, do something for grandkids, pay for somebody's tuition, do something, right? That fires you up, puts a big ass smile on your face and makes the hair on your arm stand up, right? That's the whole point. Then we go to figure out, all right, now what is the path of least resistance? And the path of least resistance depends on who you are, because we're all wired differently and perfectly, right? And none of these are right or wrong on how we do it. It's just, if you don't do the path of least resistance, you're just not going to do it, right? You got to find out, what do you want to do? I'm not saying there's not going to be challenges in everything that we do because it's outside of your comfort zone, but what are you naturally wired and predisposed to be able to do well, right? That's what I'm talking about. And that's how you're going to go do business, right? So one last loop to close the songs and all the emotions. People just don't write a song. People just don't write a book. People just don't create a TV show. It's thoughtful, deliberative in the delivery and the attraction for people's attention, right? Because that's the next step. Is now we have our vision, our goal, our drive, our emotions that are unstoppable. No one's getting in our way. But how do we actually now capture people's attention so they can create the people, the places, the locations, the thoughts, the situations, scenarios that will be stepping stones to make sure that accomplish itself. So that's when some of the hows start to come into play as far as skill sets, right? When you write a hit song, every hit song in the planet is a beautiful combination of visual, auditory, kinesthetic, right? And DISC, because they want to hit the masses, right? And that's the only way to attract people, is by throwing out a huge cast net that's attractive to a whole bunch of people. Now, if you're broadcasting different archetypes, we'll talk about now, maybe your niche is so narrow unintentionally that you only like people who are just like you, that just talk like you, that just like the same thing you do, and you're just going to go all in on that one thing, and that's simple, right? Versus I'm going to go try to be attractive to the whole world so I can find my tribe and pull them out of there, or I already know my tribe, I'm going to go after that. So you see how the why is so important, and the fuck how is important, but it's not as important at all. This is just skill building, right? Skill building, because ultimately you have to just connect with people and talk with people. That's the whole goal. Now, what we're going to talk about next are, what are the main simplest ways for you to just take that step and communicate with people. And then here's the secret, guys. Once Sebastian's already won, by the way, Sebastian's already won this game. He won. I can already, I feel emotions running through him already on this side of the phone. Okay, he won. So now he just has to get up and say hello to people, and that's it. But he has to do it many times a day, and not knowing the outcome, not being attached to the outcome, not knowing the exact path, but just knowing that talking and communicating with people will connect. All he's doing now is allowing the dots to connect. The intention's already out there. He will have the 40 grand by the end of December extra to be able to pull that trigger. There's no doubt about it. Now all he has to do is get up and go talk to people. It doesn't matter where exactly. It could happen at Starbucks getting a coffee, or grabbing a lunch, or sitting in the tire repair place, right? But he has to. If he hides, it's not going to happen. Just getting out there, communicating with people, and allowing the dots to connect themselves. So I love this. Is my favorite freaking topic on the planet, by the way, because it's the secret to it all.
What's the whole business
That's
in a
it.
nutshell? I mean, it really is. And I think, and I think it's taken us a long time, right? It's taken you and Craig essentially 30 years to get to even the simplistic side of archetypes, right? I mean, yes, we've broken it down. You guys have had a simplified version to this plan, right? Of just talk to people since I came on board for sure. So I'm sure most of the history of the company has been built around that. But I think we've become very clear over the last 30, 60, 90 days as a company and as a leadership team on, yes, talk to people. Now the question is, how should you talk to people, right? Because I can talk to people in a lot of different ways. And based on my skill set, based on what I'm willing, the actions I'm willing to actually take, determine which archetype I'm actually going to be able to consistently get results in. Now, that doesn't mean, listen, if next week, if tomorrow, my kids wouldn't eat unless I got deal, guess what? Archetypes are going out the window, and I'm literally doing everything I can. Now, for me in this business, that would probably mean going and knocking on every single door. Why? Not because I love door knocking, not because I personally believe that's the most efficient use of time, but what if I have the most control over if I need a deal? That, right? Because guess what? If I don't get my deal, I just keep knocking. If I'm a marketer, that's more difficult, right? Because I've got to attract, and I can't just say, oh, well, I'll just attract more people, because you don't know exactly who you're attracting as a marketer. It's a volume game, right? So the prospector has an advantage. The prospector has an advantage by being able to directly control the result. Because if I can just one-on-one, I'm in control, I just keep knocking until I get what I need, right? And if I don't get it, then I just keep going. So that there's times where you might have to go outside of your comfort zone because the driving force is so powerful that there is no other option, that I've just got to do everything in my power. And then there's going to be other times where it's like, okay, listen, I'm pretty good, but I want to build to this, and this is my long-term goal, but I have plenty of time and runway to get there. So let me build it the way I want to build it. And if that's the case, then yes, for me, that would be more of a marketing approach, right? More content, attract them in, let that work, right? So, and that's going to be different for each of you. My point being is there's going to be times where maybe you do switch archetypes, or you blend the two very heavily, right? And so you need to figure out, when we're talking about our why, what does that mean? Is it something that you need right this second? If it is, take action that's going to get you results right this second. If it's not, and it's a longer term play, great. Then you have a little bit more leeway, right? So it's important to figure out what that need is as well.
That's absolutely a really important part. And every one of us has ups and downs, right? We all have things that happen in life. If something happened and you had an unforeseen expense and you had to pay your car or do something, and you had some major repairs or a roof problem or a medical situation that wiped out 30, 40 grand from your savings, you're like, crap, I got to do something, right? Maybe the Instagram, TikTok post, to your point, isn't going to guarantee results the time frame that you need it. But I'll tell you what, taking my phone and going to every expired listing, opening up Forewarn and public records and finding their name and their phone number and doing a video text from their front door when they're not home and didn't answer the door because I knocked, because I'd rather go face to face. But if they're not, then I'm going to do a video text, right? Then I'm also going to write a letter and I'm going to stuff it in their door, right? And I'm going to, because I'm not going to not be successful, right? And I will do that from morning daylight till it's dark outside, right? Why not? Any one of you, us, anybody in a position that cash flow will help you, there's no excuse for not having cash flow, right? 30 days from now, there's no excuse from having. Here's the other thing, point in there. I was talking to somebody who had like that. They really need to make some cash right now. Then go get a deal, because you get a deal, and you pass your financing contingencies and those things, you can get a commission advance on it and get paid quickly, right? There's opportunities to get paid quickly when we run into an unforeseen circumstances, right? But you got to go hit the unconditional withdrawals, hit the expireds, hit the FSBOs, hit the absentee owners, and hit 100 of them today, and watch your whole world change. Watch your pipeline be full. Watch the one guy said, funny you called right now. I decided today that I'm going to actually make the decision to hire somebody. I'd love to have you interview for the job. Can you come back at 3? Right? That's our goal. That's the goal. But when you have the emotional, powerful why that says, get out of my way, I'm going to make this happen. Then you have the reason to make the call. Then you have the reason to make the post. Then you have the reason to open up the forewarn account and get on the phone, open up the video, do a video text, because the feeling of not providing mom with the home is unacceptable, right? There is not an option. Therefore, you're going to go talk to as many people as you need to, and it's an exciting sport and it's a game, right? Is this my next deal? Are you my next appointment? Are you my next listing? Are you my next listing? Are you my next transaction? Are you the means to mom's house? Are you the person that's going to be the one? Is it you or is it you? If it's not you, then it's not you. Then it's got to be you. It's not you, then it's got to be you. Then it's got to be you. Then it's got to be you. Then it's got to be, who's next? Who's my next listing? Is it you? Okay. Not yet. Who is it? New, next. Man, I'm tired, but I'm going to keep going. Why? Because I want to feel that hug, right? And I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And tomorrow, I didn't get anything today. I'm doing it again, and I'm going all day, until, oh my gosh, I have 3 pendings. One of them happens to be 750 grand. I now have 65 grand coming in by the end of December, and that feels good, right? That's the answer, guys.
Building that pipeline allows you then to have the leeway to actually build it the way you want. And if you are one of the prospectors, right, that actually loves the hunt, great, then you just keep doing that, right? But if you're not, what you may need to realize is you may need to go build the pipeline using a method that is not your favorite, but by building that pipeline and building those pendings now gives you the breathing room that you need and the time you need to actually go build the business that you want the way that you want, right? If Jeff and I started a new business tomorrow and rent was due that day, right? We could say, oh, well, we'll go run Facebook ads and we're going to drive in traffic. Yeah, we will, but that's probably going to take 30 to 60 days. And we have rent due right now. So what do we need to do now? Well, we need to go fill the store with customers now. So we need to go stand on the street corner. We need to go pass out flyers. We need to go knock on doors. We need to get people in here now. And then those people will allow us to live over the next 30 days while we go do the content and the ads and drive people in that way, right? So it's just taking an overall approach to say, yes, I can build a big business doing this. If I'm a networker, I want to go talk to people, and I'm going to join these associations, and I'm going to go connect with all those folks. Yes, you will. But every connection is probably 45, 60, 90 days. They're months out, right? So that's great. And that will help you in the long run. And that's great that that's your skill set and you're good at it. But what are you going to do right now, right? Let's go take care of the next 30 days and then do strategy that'll take care of the next few months. It's combining it.
I just had a primitive thought, right? Caveman family, hungry, eat now, grab club, something, bring it back, eat it, right? That's what you do, right? Now, if you're fed right now, you can go plant your farm in your garden, and that'll feed you next month and a few months from now. But right now, you need to eat, grab your damn club, and go bang something on the head and bring it and eat it, right? That's the aspect, and we're all at different stages of life. So if you're in that stage, grab the damn club. You know what to go do. Go bang something on the head, drag it home, and eat it, right? There's no excuse, guys. There's not an excuse that's even allowable. You have the skills, you have the market, you have the knowledge, you have the location, you have the brand, you have the leadership behind you. You've got everything in the planet, everything on a silver platter, spit, polish, shine with a bow on top. Here you go. Here's your club. there's the food. Go do it, right? While you're building your garden for next quarter too. That's the difference on that one. So fun topic, man.
Yep.
Fun topic. Well, hopefully this rang true, was clear, sounded good, felt good, everything that it needs to all of you watching, listening, just hearing this thing, guys. Our whole job in Power, Educating, Courage is to make sure that you get all the bullshit out of your way, right? And get clear on your vision and just let it happen. It will happen. It's happening already. As soon as you make that decision, it's all unfolding already for you. So there you go. What kind of week we're going to have?
Best week ever.
And who gets to decide it, baby?
We do.
We do. We do. We do. We do. Have a wonderful day, guys. Talk to you soon. Let us know how we can help you.